College football nerds here, trying to do a bit of a summer speaker series where we play a little college football 25 and get some info on college football from some other perspectives besides mine and Josh's and my cell phone as I get a spam call. That's all right. We're going to roll with it. RJ Young is a friend of the program. He loves all football, including Oklahoma football. We're going to talk about a little bit today. He loves us so much that he's doing this twice. We had a great conversation last week, and everything I recorded, I don't want to get demonetized, but it wasn't good. And the conversation was incredible. So I said, RJ, can we run it back? And he said, you know what? Yes, we can. That's how big of a friend of the program he is. He did a 134 ranking, 1 to 134, which is absolutely incredible because I can't even do 1 to 5 right now. Makes my head hurt. So want to go check it out. FoxSports.com. I will drop the link in the description. Y'all can check that out. You can make fun of him. You can tell about he's wrong. You can tell him how he's amazing. RJ is amazing. Let's get into this game and see what we can do with it.
Hey, there you go. There you go. That's actually one of the 5 non-conference games that I picked out that are going to shape the college football season. Wrote about that at FoxSports.com. But also one of the things that still gets under my skin. That's a non-conference game for Florida State.
I mean, it is, and it's funny because everybody says ACC. Notre Dame is basically an ACC team, but that's like, what was it? A couple years ago, was it like Virginia and NC State or somebody played 2 ACC teams as an out-of-conference game? I thought that was pretty interesting. But enough of that. We might get into Florida State in a second because I had something to say about them on Twitter today. You did a 1 to 134 ranking, and I'm curious about your philosophy. I have my own opinions on this. I feel like everybody hates preseason rankings. They like to bag on preseason rankings, but I think they're great as long as you're willing to shuffle week to week, especially in those first 6 to 8 weeks. The big problem I have with preseason rankings is AP voters in particular, and Coaches Poll too, what they try to do is back their way into their original rankings as the season goes on instead of radically reacting to information as it comes through. I'm curious, when you do a preseason ranking where there's no data to go on except for potential, do you look at the schedules and say, I think this team has the potential to finish 11-1 with this schedule, therefore I'm going to rank them this way? Or do you go based on more of a power rating of, I'm ranking 1 to 134 based on how good I think this team is, even though they might end up 8-4 because their schedule is so hard and somebody else's is so easy?
I think it's a good question. I also think that, as I do a top 25 each and every week throughout the season, and we really enjoy it, and frankly, it performs. I've always thought of this as a great place to start. I've always thought of this as a great place to begin a conversation. Usually, the way that I take a look at this is, who do I think is good, and why do I think that they are good? And really rank them based on what we know from the offseason, what we know from what's returning from last season, and take into account schedule strength. Like, I think the only advanced metric that I really lean on that much is what did your opponents do last year, and how much of that is something we can. Ooh, my goodness, RJ.
Threw it right to him, man. He was waiting on you.
It's these, man. This away advantage is ridiculous. Home advantage is ridiculous. Nobody knows what they're doing.
It's overpowered.
Well, I play a lot of Ultimate Team, so it's not an excuse. It's just me making an observation. I don't like it when people make their rankings based on this is how we're going to predict it to finish, because that's also not the sport anymore. That probably holds up when we weren't playing. I guess after the Bowl Alliance, you can do anything you want, or before the Bowl Alliance, you can do anything you want. After that, it matters, right? Because the season's going to be shaped by wins and losses, even more so now than ever before. So let's start with, who do we think is really good and who do we think can win the national championship? That's why I got Ohio State at 1 and Georgia at 2. Everybody else has got it flipped, but we're agreeing on who's in the in the national championship, and we're more or less agreeing on who we think the best teams are. It's getting down past that 25 that I find to be fun. But that's where I start. I start with who's going to win the national championship and work my way down, not as predicted, but based on what I know going into week 1, and that could change, right? LSU beats USC by 45. We're going to have something to talk about. We're going to need to change some things up.
Okay, so for me, though, it's a little tricky because you look at, and this is where we get into Oklahoma football, you look at an Oklahoma and a Missouri. And when I tweeted about these were the two teams that I picked as sort of this extreme example because, in my opinion, Missouri is getting a lot of heat. I mean, look, they're going to be a good football team this year. I think they were a good football team last year, but they're getting a lot of heat, in my opinion, based on that potential of how they're going to do against their schedule. I think people are looking at Missouri and thinking, gosh, at the end of the year, they could really be 10-2 as a lot because their schedule isn't that tough. On the flip side, you have an Oklahoma who, and I'm going to ask you in a little bit what you think they're going to do in the year, but just on the surface, Oklahoma's schedule is much tougher. And I think Oklahoma fans have a right to be frustrated compared to Texas, who's got a much easier schedule, in my opinion. I think if I'm ranking teams on quality, which is how I think you should do it and not on how they're going to end up in the end of the season, I would have Oklahoma ahead of Missouri. But a lot of people are talking about Missouri, and some people are ranking Missouri a lot higher based on how they think they're going to end up. And like you said, it's not really how we should do it anymore, especially since in the 12-team playoff era, you've got a little bit of a margin on pure win-loss. You got a lot of margin. So I think that should give us a little more room to make this more like a power ranking, especially early in the season.
I generally hate the term power ranking. That's a peeve of mine. I just don't like it. I don't think it sells what it is that we're actually trying to get done or do when we're ranking these teams like I do. I also think that the rankings have to matter, and that's the reason power rankings don't. But in the case of Missouri, I think we're putting a lot on the schedule is what we're doing, and we're doing it for everybody because that's all we got to go with, right? You're looking at the win against Ohio State, and you're making decisions based on that. And I'm going, this is the same team that damn near lost to a Florida team that wasn't any good. And that's with that All-American tailback they got there. And Brady Cook is Jake Fromm for me, right? Luther Burden's Luther Burden. Theo Weiss is Theo Weiss, and we'll see what Corey Batoon can do with that defense. But I think people are focused on them performing because they see what you see, which is you mark 10 wins, right? For an Oklahoma, I think that actually is true. I don't think Missouri, with their soft schedule, is going to get into a playoff with 10 wins because we all also know it's a soft schedule. For Oklahoma, you go win 10 games against that schedule, nobody's going to turn their nose down at you getting into the playoff in that large berth. That's where I think this gets to be interesting, is if these teams actually live up to their expectation. Like, I think Oklahoma's got 6 preseason AP top 25 opponents on the schedule, which is ridiculous. And to your point about Texas and Oklahoma fans being upset, where's Vanderbilt on the damn schedule? That's what I want. Where's the bye week? Why do they get to play Vanderbilt on the road, by the way? What are we doing there?
Road SEC win in the fall. Talk about it.
I don't want to derail us from this, but
yes,
it bothers me that Vanderbilt gets to call themselves an SEC football program. It does. It bothers me. I don't like it one bit. I think you should have to earn that. Oh, golly, guys. We got both tackles beat?
Before.
Both tackles?
Pre-Texas, right? And pre-Texas A&M, Vanderbilt had the highest endowment of all SEC schools, which is wild to me. But good baseball program, decent sometimes basketball program. I'm not mad about it in that, we ultimately got it, right? You shouldn't pull that safety up. Oh, you got to catch that. Come on.
Look.
We ultimately
we got to jump a route. We've given away possession already. We got to jump a route.
We got these super conferences, and one of the things I always was frustrated with is you'd have Pac-12 or Big 12 fans be like, complaining about Vanderbilt, but the joke was kind of fair. We'd have a 2015 year where Alabama played, I think, 8 teams that finished with 10 wins. It was something insane. The notion that we got to play you got to play all these top 10 teams, and then you need to play one more. When a Big Ten or an ACC team might play one top 5, top 10 team in the year, it's not super fair in my opinion. But we ultimately got that anyway. I agree with you. It's frustrating, but you'll get Vanderbilt on your turn. But that's why I think that this where we're at now with these super conferences is so hard, because what we've got to do is.
Thank you.
Was that a user pick?
Yeah, perfect timing user pick. Come on now.
Oh, and he's going to take it all the way.
Nah, Ben ain't that fast.
Benjamin
Morrison came in on my DMs talking about why I was talking about him. Going, there you go, right there. You're not outrunning the White House.
So with these unbalanced schedules, I think it's okay that you lose a game or two, and we don't care about it as much. But having said that, I'm curious. So we get into some more of this Oklahoma conversation. Oklahoma lost a lot from last year. They started moving in the right direction as a program. There was some rebuilding that had to be done, and you like the momentum coming out of last year. A lot of turnover personnel-wise, coaching-wise. What's your expectations if you're – let's do two extremes. So what's the record look like if we're talking hot seat situation, and what's the record look like if we're talking contract renewal situation?
I don't think we're going to be talking hot seat speculation on that.
I mean, if you go 0-12, like, just play along.
What?
I'm saying no. I'm saying there is a on a spectrum. There is a point where you would talk hot seat. That's what I'm saying. Like, is it? It doesn't have to be a reasonable number that Oklahoma would hit. I'm not saying hot seat is on the horizon. I don't think that at all. I'm saying let's talk both extremes, like to think of what would be a super disappointing season versus what would be an overachieving season.
Super disappointing was 2022, right? And that's 6-7. That went 6-7 in the bowl game. But I'm also looking at this from the standpoint of, come on now, like not every team on that schedule is Alabama and Texas,
right?
But as far as what my expectations are and what would be beneath expectations, this being year one, I think, is the reason that we're talking about it in the way that we are. So, like, to your point about we're going to get Vanderbilt on our turn, you only get year one in the SEC, and it's year one in the first year of the 12-team playoff. I would make the example that Ohio State becomes Ohio State once again because they won the 2014 national championship the first year we got the playoff. Answering your question, though, and as far as what would be disappointing to me, you don't go bowling, I'm going to be very, very, very disappointed, right?
Okay.
You win 8 games, I'm going to be disappointed.
Okay.
I am. Am I going to be angry and supremely mad like I was about Mike Stoops coordinating the defense? No. That it's going to take a lot for me to do that, because one of the things I really enjoy about Brent is he came in here doing what Clemson does, learned that only Clemson can do that, and he pivoted, right? He went to the portal. He went and got bigger. He went and got faster. He went and got stronger in a hurry. I think, and it's last year, right, or 2022, excuse me, Ted Roof basically stopped calling the defense. Brent started calling the defense. And in hiring Zach Yalley, you've hired a mini-me. So a lot of things would have to fall apart, I guess is what I'm saying, for them to not at least meet my expectations, because I genuinely believe that it's a good football team, and it's capable of competing for a conference championship. Yeah. It's August, too. Why are we talking about why are we talking about losing in August?
Well, because we're a channel that hates subscribers.
There you go.
Because I think it's interesting because I think it's like getting the landscape for the year, the expectations for the year. It's tough to really know what the expectations are if you're only talking sunshine and rainbows. And I know that's like
true.
For what people are for people who don't know why you asked that question. Like, anybody that's talking ball right now for a living, if they're doing it and saying anything negative, they're dumb. Like, if you do a review for a team and you're going negative in any way, you're silly because you don't have to go negative. There's
No.
literally nothing like so. That's where that's coming from. But here's what's interesting about your answer there. I'm okay with 8-4, and I know you're not. I know we talked previously, and I think you said 10 wins is the floor or maybe the expectation. And I'm saying we're in such a new world now that each schedule has to be calibrated. Like each team has to be calibrated directly to their schedule because it's so different than it used to be. And so I think 8-4 for Oklahoma this year is oh goodness, is what used to be 10-2. And I think we're still in a little bit of like 10 wins is the benchmark mode without looking at schedule. And I think it's going to take us 4 or 5 years to get past that collectively because the schedules are never going to even out. There's never going to be that year where
they don't have to with the 12-team playoff.
Right,
is
exactly.
one thing, right? They don't have to. But in as far as 8-4 would be fine for you. Other thing I would like is I would like data, right? One of the things that I point out to folks when we talk about the SEC and Oklahoma in particular is 110 wins versus 49, right? And a lot of those wins are against Missouri. A lot of those wins against A&M. Some of those wins against Arkansas. But if you're talking about in the last decade, let's say in the era of the college football playoff, we're really talking about beating Nick Saban, Alabama, Sugar Bowl, 2013, Trevor Knight. We're talking about beating Auburn, 2016, Sugar Bowl. We're talking about going to Tennessee and getting win. There's reason to believe that Oklahoma is a 10-win team in the SEC, given what you know about the top of the league, right? Georgia, we let that one go. Like that one, you know this. Nothing gets under my skin worse than knowing that Lincoln Riley chose a squib kick up 17, going into halftime, gave the momentum back to Georgia, and we can never get it back. That was the team. And I think you are actually the person that pointed this out to me. Oklahoma was the matchup for Alabama, right? That was the one. That if it was going to get done, it's probably going to get done with us. It didn't, and we've been chasing that ever since, right? So I think that's why you're getting some pushback from me on just what I think the expectation should be from everybody else, not just from Oklahoma fans.
Well, can
yes,
Oklahoma
Yes, sir. Ah!
Come on.
Ah! Chris,
Oklahoma,
make a play.
Can Oklahoma be a 10-win team in the SEC? Sure, but that Nick Saban era SEC is gone. Nick Saban doesn't go 12-0 in the old SEC. Now you've added Oklahoma and Texas. So you've taken the best brand.
Well, we're not 12-0. No, not that. I don't want to cut you off, but we're not saying we're not going to lose.
But no, what I'm saying is even Alabama fans have to change their expectations because, and that's one of the things that kind of scares me about, an Alabama fan perspective. If you're an Alabama fan right now, it's always hard on a new coach first year. They get a lot of, I think, unfair criticism a lot of times. Well, Alabama might have very well gone 9-3, 8-4 with their schedule this year with Nick Saban, right? So, because it's just different. It's yes, it's the SEC, but it's also Wisconsin on the road. It's also adding Oklahoma instead of playing, Mississippi State, right? Like I'm not one of those people that thinks that every game in the SEC every week has always been against the number one team in the country. There are breathers in there, and there's fewer breathers now that you add Oklahoma and Texas. So I'm not mad at an Oklahoma that goes 8-4 this year because I think that is the historical 10-win SEC team that we used to see, a good, tough 10-win team against a good, tough schedule. I think that is the new 8-4 or 9-3 is what I'm saying.
Well, and I think we're all we count wins, right? And I think we're going to get to where you are already, given time, if you give us some time. But right now, we're playing with hope and expectations. And when you're used to, like I'm used to, oh goodness, just hand the ball off, RJ. hand the ball off. You read the end. Goodness me. Jeremiah was gone. I think there was going to take some time, right? Because I'm coming from this standpoint of if we don't win double-digit games in a season, I don't recognize that Oklahoma team, right? 8-4 has traditionally been an off year for us, a bad year for some, and they're going, well, your expectations are going to have to change. I'm like, well, hell, Ole Miss won 11, We like to think that we're every bit them. On the ball. Let's go. On the ball. Let's go. Snap. Snap it. Snap the ball. Goodness. There it is. Ah! Goodness.
Less miles on the sticks over here, y'all.
Oh man.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is I predict that you're going to have to make that hard calibration that everybody is, and I think it's going to take several.
That everybody is what you're saying, as opposed to singling out Oklahoma. That's what I wanted to be clear about.
Yeah.
I'm saying that to the viewers. I'm sorry.
I'm picking Alabama to go out and like 9-3 this year and make the playoffs. Like I think it's just a whole new world, and it used to be the best teams in the country went 12-0, 11-1, and I think everybody's gonna get beaten up now, especially while we still have the remnants of really good out of conference games, which I think will ultimately go away. I think that's where we're at right now, but it's going to take a while. This is a prediction of mine. Maybe the best teams are still going 12-0. They're not. Georgia ain't going 12-0 this year. Their schedule's brutal too. So, tell me. Go ahead.
Can I ask you right fast, because the non-conference schedule thing is important to me, because I tend to think we're going to get closer and closer to the NFL, which I know is a bugaboo for you, because nobody says marquee matchup between the Chiefs and the Niners as a non-conference game. It's a game that we all look forward to. For instance, that said, Georgia versus Clemson feels like the last vestiges of this, given what we know about Dabo and what we know about Kirby the last 10 years. I'm curious, what if anything does Georgia need to show you in that game for you to believe that your prediction will hold up and that they'll probably – I'm assuming you're predicting them to the SEC championship. I'm assuming that.
I don't know that I am. I haven't really –
Oh, okay.
I think Georgia – I think Georgia is going to be really good this year. I think their schedule is going to be tough. I mean, look, the thing for me on scheduling, and this is what I keep telling people, because there are only so many elite teams in any given year. Expanding the playoffs doesn't create more elite teams, right? But super conference scheduling, what it does, where it gets really tough, is when you have that 3 or 4 game stretch in a row of 8-4 teams. That is what's new. You're still going to play elite teams. Michigan has always played Ohio State, right? Texas has always played Oklahoma. But instead of having breather games on either side of that, you're on the road at an Ole Miss. You're on the road at a Missouri team, and then you have another kind of semi-tough game after that. So that's what's going to change, and I honestly think that that's going to catch Georgia, that's going to catch Oklahoma, that's going to catch Alabama this year.
I think you're right. One of the ways in which I'm actually watching this is non-conference. So Alabama is fascinating for a lot of reasons. I've said that number 5 in the AP preseason poll feels overrated, but not that much, because I got him at 9, because that's not Nick Saban coaching that team, right? You give me that same personnel with Saban, I'll let it go. This personnel does not, to me, measure up to a top 5 team. That said, they got Wisconsin on the road, they get a bye, and then they get Georgia. That is going to tell me a lot about not just Alabama, but the SEC, right? Because Wisconsin's not expected to win the Big Ten, but they are expected to go bowling and get 7, 8, 9 wins somewhere in there. A win for them is going to make their season. We're going to talk about them being a playoff team. They get that win. But if Alabama comes back, plays Georgia close, beats Georgia, or they double it up, I'm going to learn a lot. That's why I think these things are important this year as opposed to what they're going to be going forward.
I think that here's where I will give you a little bit of pushback on the Alabama thing. I think Nick Saban was holding that program together with duct tape and Band-Aids in spite of coaching. Like his assistant coaches, the last 4 years, his staff has been the weakest it's ever been, in my opinion. Maybe back to like I thought we've been pretty critical of like the Nussmeier offensive era here, but in general, top to bottom, I think the coaching staff was pretty bad. And stuff that we're hearing coming out of, like, I think Dallas Turner said, he had a really contentious relationship with his position coach last year. There's some hope if you're an Alabama fan, in my opinion, of you're going to take a step back defensively, but offensively, I saw somebody say something the other day about how the Alabama practices seem a lot less organized than they have been under Saban, and then Saban was kind of known for that. But when you think about it, like, they've been one of the most penalized teams in the nation the last couple of years. So what has it gotten them? Like, what has all of that really gotten them? I don't know. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting because I'm not sure they take a step back overall. I think their win-loss record takes a step back, but I think they'll be as good as a team.
Can't take him with me. Okay.
What are you challenging?
Beyond the line of scrimmage.
Oh, come on.
You threw that pass beyond the line of scrimmage.
Oh, come on. I did not.
You just take off and run, I hear you on the Alabama point. The other thing is I would say Nick Saban does it to himself. Nobody's had a better revolving door of assistants than that guy.
100%.
Like, short of Holman, Wiggins, who else will we throw in there? Maybe Sunseri? Who has been there for longer than 4 years? Who's been there longer than 3 years under Saban the last decade? So, I hear you on that point, but I'm going, he could fix that. The infamous thank you. Where's Dan?
I don't understand. I don't get it. Like, I didn't get the meter or anything, so I thought he was handing it off.
You thought you were running. So you ran an RPO there.
I ran an RPO and I thought I was handing it off, and I didn't get the meter, so that's why I threw because it was
a duck.
Yeah,
a duck. Yeah,
had icicles on it. This game is now being played under protest. That was a great drive. I'm pretty frustrated.
Okay, all right. I got something for you. Oh my God, what is that man doing?
So, all right.
I got tackles he can't block. Ran through him like he wasn't there.
So, tell me about, in terms of how you manage personnel at Oklahoma this year, given all the turnover. Like, what are you hearing? Are you getting any feel for, especially on the offensive side of the ball, how the O-line's gelling, how, like, just what you think they're going to have to do, anything different to maybe mitigate what they had last year and losing it?
No. I think they're leaning into who they were last year. They're just doing it sooner. So you're seeing defensive back play become a much bigger part of what their past defense has been. And usually it's been just getting after people. Now they're going to be sending one of those safeties down. The offensive line's yelling. I can't really speak to that. It's Bill Beatonbow's mode, and every time I think that we're going to have a problem, that we don't have a problem, and every time I think we're going to be fine, we're fine. I think that's where we're going to see the biggest change, and we're going to see the biggest weakness in the team, frankly, especially if Jackson has a hard time reading it like he did against Arizona, and I think he will. I think there's something to playing the sport for a considerable amount of time that he just doesn't have, and we're going to ask. There we go. Seth Luttrell to teach him a lot on the fly. But also behind him, we're talking about Casey Thompson in the 7th year coming off a knee. So I'm curious about just how much we're going to ask that dude to throw the ball and move around, and how much this is just going to be handing the ball to Gavin Sawchuk. But if we can't hand it to him because we don't have an offensive line that can run block, we got a problem. That's the thing. We got a problem. I've been barking about the wide receiver core because I got a thing about not having a 1,000-yard receiver. But the point is made, RJ. We're talented over there. It's no! God dog it! What a break! What do you mean you saw that one? computer picked me off.
Linebacker. I was controlling the linebacker. I saw the out with the linebacker and the corner was on it. Come on. Everybody saw that.
The man was open, and then Fintrell absolutely made a play.
Yeah, I mean,
Fintrell made a play.
I think I had a D tackle going out there too, trying to get it because everybody knew it was coming.
Yo. I don't think we're actually going to know much about that football team, honestly, until September 21st when Tennessee comes to town. After that, call me. I'll be able to tell you something. I'll be able to tell you who's lying to me and who wasn't. But we're also getting to the point where, short of a knee injury, and we've had a couple, right? Jaden Gibson comes to mind here. Speedster wide receiver. I think we're going to be figuring it out on the fly. There's nothing I can tell you that you can't already do.
Okay, so give me a prediction. Give me what do you think at the end of the regular season? What's Oklahoma's record look like, and is it more of a defensive-oriented team or an offensive-oriented team? Because you've had to be an offensive-oriented team lately. Does that shift a little bit given the turnover? Give me a win-loss prediction for me.
10-2,
okay.
Defensive team.
Okay.
It's one where if you get a double-digit lead, you're probably going to try to sit on the ball, and you're probably going to try to let that mature defense go to work with Danny Stutzman, Billy Bowman, Ethan Downs. Like there's just a lot of talent, but also a lot of experience. Oh my God! No! What?
Come on,
dude! Wow!
Come on!
All right, the game was cheating there. The game was cheating there. I'm not. Yeah, that I didn't do. Yeah, fumbled the football. He fumbled the football. Out here looking like Jalen Hurts.
Recovered his own with 4 guys standing around. 4.
You know, if only Jalen could do that.
I see what you're doing with the clock, by the way. I totally see that. So
you see it?
I see it.
Okay. Since you see it. All right.
I've got 9-3, 8-4, somewhere in that range, and that is less an indictment on Oklahoma. I've got Alabama same spot, probably 9-3. I think Oklahoma's schedule is a little bit tougher. I got Georgia dropping 1 or 2, wouldn't shock me at all.
I just want to know who they are. Who are they? Because if it's Texas, we're gonna riot.
Some of that has to do with sequencing, though. Some of that is because I don't have their schedule in the back of my head, so.
Well, they go to Austin for that game, and that was the reason I thought it was on the list. As we pull up that schedule, you know what? I got to delay a game penalty. I need to just play the game.
You do. Still at 2 minutes. So, again, sequencing. I'm not super high on Auburn this year, but Auburn gave them their second toughest game last year, right? Like Auburn should have won that game.
I jumped in. I want to jump in there because I have them ranked at 38 in my 134, and I was getting asked about it, and I was going, it's a team that couldn't throw the football to save its life, but still had Georgia and Alabama on the ropes. Tell me what to do with that.
Right.
It felt like
and
that.
roster-wise, they're pretty good. Roster-wise, they're not terrible at all. Linebacker just I just froze.
Yeah.
So this stretch, this is how they end the season until they get to UMass and Georgia Tech, which obviously they'll lose. Kentucky, Alabama, Auburn, Mississippi State, Texas, Florida, Ole Miss, Tennessee. That's brutal. And in isolation, I don't know that any one of those teams is better than Georgia. But when you stack them all in a row, you don't get to sneak ahead and prep for Tennessee when you're at Ole Miss the week before, because that's how you get bit. In the past, a Georgia or an Alabama would have the luxury of being, okay, we've got Mississippi State in a given year where Ole Miss goes 6-6. We got a 6-6 Ole Miss and a Mississippi State, and then we've got LSU. So you can sneak ahead, do a little advanced scouting, do a little advanced prep work. You can rest some guys, and you don't get that luxury. And you got some road games at Alabama, at Texas, at Ole Miss. I'm not entirely. Again, I think this is the same for a lot of teams this year. Same with Ohio State, same with Michigan. In isolation, you might be better than every team on your schedule. But when you have to play a bunch of teams that are almost as good as you, or 80% as good as you, and some of those are on the road, and all of those are on a row, now we got a problem. Right? So I'm going 10-2.
Well, I think, South Carolina proved that even they can show up to Georgia and Jackson for their hedges. That part I get. I'm going to be curious about who the losses are and when we decide that those losses matter. What? Oh, Mitch. Mitch, if you can't catch the ball, we're cooked, dog. We're cooked. You got a 90 overall rating, homie. I can't do it any better than that. That safety's closing. Look at that.
Dropping the budget. Not a lot, but he also dropped the ball. Sent a little heat that time.
We can't.
Sidebar, how weird is it that Georgia doesn't play South Carolina this year? Like, that's weird to me. And Alabama does, I think.
Maybe I'm showing my newness to the SEC, but I didn't clock it till somebody told me. But that's also because I don't expect South Carolina to be nobody, right? Like, you tell me about Alabama, Tennessee, or how much Tennessee hates Florida, or Florida, Georgia. I mean, even the Egg Bowl, right? But that one doesn't mean much to me. Like, I remember when they were trying to make Missouri and A&M into something. I'm going, oh, y'all are new here. Make a play! Make a play! That a boy! That a boy! That a boy!
Just ridiculous.
I don't know. Feels like a hell of a pass from RJ to RJ. That's all look at that. That's gorgeous. Look at this. Look at this.
This is classic rubber banding. That's all it is.
Is it? I don't know. I don't know. I won a national championship last night in Ultimate Team. I'm feeling good. Get to the corner. Atta boy. By the way, Daniel, this is me in a empty room every other day, yelling at the screen, giving commentary to the screen. I got a question about what we think about Big Ten versus SEC, and how that's going to shape. So, which team gets 3 in, and which conference gets 3 in? And which one is going to feel more aggrieved about not having a 3rd in?
I think that's a tough question to ask because you got to see how the season plays out. But, I
got the answer.
I'm looking at just how things look right now. I would probably say the SEC. That's because I'm higher on Alabama and maybe Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Texas, and Georgia. I think those are better teams overall. I think Michigan's going to take a step back, a big step back probably. And
can you say it louder for the folks in the back, please? I'm getting waylaid on this.
They hate us, so they absolutely can't stand us. So. Because we said they cheated last year, and apparently that was they didn't.
Well, okay, so let me. I've been making this point, and you tell me if I'm a crazy person or not. After the fact, tell me why they won your football games. Once everybody knew, you're going to tell me that nobody changed their signals, and even, hey Daniel, I'm running ISO. Meet me in the hole. What does that got to do with you on the play call?
I mean, I don't think that, and I even said this. I said you can't
make a play. Oh no, that's great. That's a great pass. It's a great pass.
You can't say to me. I don't have a star on their national championship because for that very reason. Because once everybody knew, they still had to win. Like they still had to win the games. in light of that situation. Having said that, I think that he's wide.
No! Oh my gosh! Knew it as soon as you released it. I yelled no!
Wow.
See him right there. I don't get it. I don't understand, fellas. We're in. Yeah, we're in cover 3. We're in the scheme to stop that.
That's tough. That's
We're in the scheme to stop that. We're in it. Goodness. You know, all I can do is give you the play call. All I can do is put you in position to succeed. That's all I can do. I would say it's coaching, but the coaching's there. I don't understand. We got a linebacker that just refused to drop. We got a safety that just refused to close. Y'all even want to play football? Is that what y'all want to do?
I had a 2-touchdown lead over Josh with a minute left when we played, and he had the ball on the 1-yard line. And he went 108 yards with the quarterback. And I was in zone, and my guys were still playing zone. Drop zone.
Still playing zone.
In the end zone. In the other end zone, and he just ran it.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I think the SEC gets 3. Probably, if I had to guess right now. I believe that the Big Ten is closer than it has been in terms of having quality depth, where they didn't, in my opinion, the Big Ten was the second best conference, but they didn't have the depth. They were as good at the top, but they didn't have the depth. So that also might show up in terms of wins and losses, right? Like there might be some more losses on the record because there's been, I think, in this run since 2012 at Ohio State, they've had, I think it's 4 seasons where they didn't play a ranked team until November. That's crazy to me.
Kept saying it, kept getting yelled about it. But you know, like the way I'll put this is, you know, I take a lot of pride in the top 25 and we do this. So 2022 comes around, you change both coordinators, they're gone. You got one in trouble. You got a quarterback controversy that's still going on into the season. We don't know what to make of K. We don't know what to make of JJ. And Jim Harbaugh has been coaching for his job basically since not playing Ohio State in 2020, for which they lose that game. He probably isn't coaching Michigan in 2021. Made him eat this crappy contract, and he's doing it. So I left him unranked to start the season because I looked at the conference schedule and I said, they'll be ranked later, but right now I'm not going to rank you for not playing anybody in non-con before you got to play basically Penn State and Ohio State and call it good. And what do you know? Those boys decided to win the Big Ten championship again and then make the college football playoff, and, you know, it is what it is after that. I can't call it with them. So, like, that's what I'm saying. It's like we're looking at that the run that they're on with the non-conference schedule, and we're looking at finally they're playing a conference schedule we give a damn about. Like, until Jeff Tedford needed to step down, I thought Fresno State was going to give them a hard time on August 31st, right? Knowing what we know about it. But then again, change just doesn't seem to affect that program the way it's affected the rest of us the last 4 years. So I can't call it until they start playing games. So if they run over Texas, what are we going to say?
I mean, they got to run over Texas, though. That to me, that's
fair. Okay.
But
okay.
Here's the thing about that, though. So they went 2 years in a row without playing a Power 5 out of conference. Mm-hmm. Now they got Texas. Got them at home, but they got Texas. The thing is, just what you said, they start with Fresno. So they can't, again, you can't look ahead to Texas too much because Fresno, they're not going to beat Michigan, but they're good enough that you can't completely discard them and start prepping for Texas in, July. And so, and then they've got USC, and then they've got Washington, and they've got Oregon, and they've got Ohio State. In years past, here's another one that's weird, man. They don't play Penn State this year. That is so weird to me. I hate the Super Conference thing.
Penn State doesn't. Penn State loves it.
But so it used to be here without anybody out of conference. And look, Michigan historically has played a great out of conference schedule. They wanted 8. I think they wanted to guarantee 8 home games. They had the 2 easy years. It used to be You beat Penn State, you beat Ohio State, you're going to win your division, you're going to play somebody crappy for the Big Ten championship. Now, they've gone from what I would, and this is a bit dismissive and unfair, but they've gone from a 2-game season to a 4 or 5 game season. Like Washington isn't going to be who they were last year, but they're not going to be a pushover, right? So even taking Washington out, you got Texas, USC, Oregon, Ohio State. I mean, that's substantial when you got all kinds of turnover, first-year head coach. I think they're staring at 9-3 in my opinion, but being a much worse team than an Oklahoma or Alabama if they go 9-3. That's my opinion on Michigan. Still a quality team, but I don't think they're going to be who they were.
I think you're right. It's coming off of winning a national championship.
I don't think they care.
Coming off of
well, you get the hardware. Next year doesn't matter. I've always said that. Like any fan base.
Well, and that's where I would be.
Yeah.
Speaking as an Oklahoma fan, they ain't won no national championship since 2000, and a Dallas Cowboys fan, they ain't won nothing since I was 9 years old. I'll take the trophy, and you can have the next year. And I get from other folks, it's like, you know what? It's nice to just be good every year. I'm going, try being good every year. Then tell me how that feels, right? Tell me how that feels.
Right.
But to your point about, I wouldn't care either, but they'll care because the one thing that still kind of gets under my skin about the University of Michigan is it is the only public institution that operates like a private one. Having gone to private school for my undergrad and gone to public school for my master's education, I got to tell you, one deserves to be treated that way and one does not. And the idea that you're somehow expecting to run it back in 2024 after the change that you've incurred following 2023 screams to me, oh, you just don't live on this planet. The rest of us know that's not regular. The rest of us know, like 2019 LSU is a great example of this for me. I'm like, nope, they're not running it back in 2020. They knew it before their plague year. They all knew it, and we operated that way. That's the thing that bothers me. I don't know if maybe Notre Dame would do this if they won a national championship, right? Maybe they would operate this way. But it's much more about Michigan being the ground that we're fighting on rather than what we think about college football in respect to Michigan. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, Detroit's right there. Be like Detroit.
That's a good one to end on. I've got a 5-year-old outside my door. Just got home from kindergarten and he is screaming his head off, wanting some attention from me. So I'm gonna let this one run. But RJ, thank you so much for joining me and catching a beatdown from the Seminoles. They were happy to provide that.
That's 2.
And
I play this game every day. He's beat me twice. I've won Ultimate Team national championships. He's beat me twice. What is this? Skills count for nothing over here.
And look, I'm going to take you up your offer and talk to you after Oklahoma gets a few games under their belt. We're going to have you back on, and we're going to talk Oklahoma football with some actual data to work with. It'll be pretty fun. But thank you so much for joining the show.
Yeah, brother. Thanks for having me.